Mr. Governor, thank you for giving us this opportunity.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Right, it's a very first for you to speak to electronic media. So we do hope that the next 2 hours or so we'll be able to find out a lot about Benue State and what makes you tick.
Definitely.
Well, I'm not here alone on this special program, the media chat with the Governor of Benue State. I'm here with my colleagues. Let me start off by introducing to my immediate right, Kayode Ladendi of TVC News. Kayode, good to have you here.
It's a pleasure. Good afternoon, Governor.
Now we're also joined by Abdul Yusuf of Liberty TV. Abdul. Well, let me also introduce Grace Ichepa of NTA Makudi, that's the Nigerian Television Authority in Makudi. Grace.
It's nice to be here.
All right. And also here with us is Shegun James of This Day. Shegun.
It's good to be here, Excellency.
Right. Mr. Governor, as I said in my introduction, this is the very first for you. But there are certain things we'd like to put in place before we get into the state of Benue. And easily the first would be, you are a priest. And we look at the priest in politics, and not just a priest, a reverend father in politics and now in government. So for us, let's start on the premise of how this transition took place. You moving on to politics and eventually being elected as governor. How was that move?
Well, thank you so much for the question. Come July 7th this year, I'll be 35 years as a priest. I've worked all my life, or most part of it, within the state, in the suburbs. I know the area, like the palm of my hand. I understand what our problems are, what the challenges in homes are, and the inability of our leadership previously to fix, to support, and to bring the changes. From the last station where I was before, there was an urgency for me to join the ranks in partisan politics. I was in charge of a proposed Catholic university in Vandika. In fact, it happens to be in my home local government, actually. But then I had to take leave of absence to come into the partisanship of politics. I think the transition wasn't quite difficult. We priests spend all our lives supporting people, trying to fix the immediate kind of environmental problem, familiar problems and all that. So it wasn't something so much difficult for me to understand what my roles in this new task would be. However, back in the church, we're not too accustomed to making so much noise, lying. If it is blue, it has to be blue. If it's red, you have to maintain that. But until I joined the political ranks, I discovered a number of things. But I understand the human psychic. Part of the very intensive and extensive studies I've made over time is human psychology. So I understand how that could play out. And then definitely when you are working with people in the suburbs, you must understand their orientation, know what they believe in, where they're coming from, and what can set them to a new pedestal. So having understood all those, and then as I came in, those are the actual principles we've been trying to do. Again, in the church, we try to apply the principle of subsidiarity. The principle of subsidiarity is very simple. I'll give you fish, teach you how to catch the fish. Then you begin catching the fish yourself. But over here, I attempted so much to do that, and it's something new. So there were kind of back and forth on acceptability. So majorly, you are giving them fish. They just want to continue getting the fish handouts and, So, but overall, the transition was quite smooth. The experiences are quite enormous. And I'm looking forward to a number of chapters and textbooks, on such experiences.
Well, perhaps in the course of this conversation, we'll be able to unearth some of those things you talked about, which would pitch you against those who want to continually receive the fish and not learn how to fish. But at this point, let me set Coyote on it all.
Father, let's look at the uniqueness of Benue State. By the way, the whole Nigeria is watching this, so we want to believe that there are a lot of people who have been looking forward to this opportunity to really meet you, and I think you've done well by explaining the transition. But let's delve into Benue State, the uniqueness. When we talk about Benue, from primary school, we've been told this is the food basket of the nation, and we are not unaware of the challenge of insecurity. So how has it been? As much as, this is my personal view, there's a lot of change in terms of positive, in terms of reduction in insecurity. But insecurity is still insecurity, even when a life is wasted or killed. So what has been the reality, and how are you addressing that?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Let me first of all build a context to this. Benue became independent since 76.
76, yeah.
A number of dynamics came to play. During the military administration, it was quite different. May 28th, in 1975, the ECOWAS came up with a proposal. And the proposal was suggestively saying that ECOWAS, West African countries, should try to see how they can absorb pastoralists crossing the borders for grazing. I think it kind of took Nigeria quite some time. But in 98, Nigeria adopted this. So Nigeria had now accepted the cross-border and the transhumans portfolio that was proposed in 75 by then the OAU. OAU came into being, I'm thinking, in 63.
60, yes.
Yeah, and then it lasted into 99. So all this while, it was only by 1998 that Nigeria adopted this. We had lived by this axis, even as a child growing up. We knew that we called them the traditional herders. During the summer area period, they could, and then there were routes as well. They could come past, wherever they were going. As children, we never knew. But then afterwards, and then they vanished. During the rainy season, they were no longer there until the dry seasons came in during the following year. So there wasn't any friction per se. But since after the adaptation in 1999, there was a very drastic change. I'm not sure a number of things were conceived for this protocol, the transhuman and the border crossing between goods and the humans by the ECOWAS borders were considered so much. If they were, I think they would require a revisiting. Here's the thing. We are 23 local governments in the state. As I speak now, about 17 local governments are housing the IDPs. We have a number of local governments up to now 9 that are in the front lines of the insecurities. As bad as this might sound, and as horrible it may sound, remember, we share a population of about 7 million. Over a quarter before I came into governance, it's even on the records, everywhere, even on the YouTubes and social media, it's out there. So before we came in, we heard, we saw, we were told that 1.5 million, people were in this bondage of the IDPs. And as at June last year, 2024, we recorded 500,000 people approximately, which speaks about over 870,000 families, that became displaced. How do we get the data? Before we came in, there was no data. Until we got in there through the assistance of the United Nations, then we got that established via the IOM. So it is a full recorded, deliberate data that was created. So this is what we have. Our people are primarily agrarian because this is the headquarters of the food zone. We were quite good. We were the first producers of yams in the world. It's on the record. We were number one producers of soybeans. I think we recorded about number 4 on sesame production. And then even on rice. On rice, before this time, we were feeding the northern Nigeria. And then most part of the eastern Nigeria as well. So we were quite good on what we were doing until the nomadism came into play, and then the pastoralists also had to source for the lean resources, the natural resources that now came to play. And I believe that there are a number of factors that may have even costs, so many things in here. Increase in population, so the routes are no longer there, now closed. And then talk about climate change, and a number of issues that come with such changes. So those may be the factor by the UN standard and speak. Those are the things that emerged, that pushed even the pastoralists for all the crises we were having between the farmers by our axis and then the pastoralists. The challenges are there. With the traditionalists, traditional herders, they only came with their cattle, at most 6, and then cutlasses, some machetes. But that is no longer the case. What we experience today, it's calculated, calibrated, planned, strategized, and then executed. And it has a number of things attached to this. It is not the usual form and frame we know. What happens now is, as they walk through, there is a planned destabilization. The locals are driven out via killings and then pushing away. And then for the mercenaries will come in first. They will attack, and once we cry, and then we are settled down, and then we put some measures in place. After a little while, then they show up again. And then by this time, we see lots of herds, and then with a number of human beings coming in just to occupy the places. So I think I wouldn't be wrong to say land grabbing, it's part of these challenges we have in this. So instead of producing all the food some more, a colleague and a brother of mine, the governor of Niger State, who is just coming into farming now, kind of teases me each time, we are together and talking over issues and comparing notes. That for the record, he wants me to know that Niger State is keeping the food, Benue State is keeping the basket, But I just tell him, well, although we have been vastly destabilized, we are still making a lot of efforts to going back to farming. Here's the thing. When the destabilization, the maiming, the land grabbing, the killings took place, we lost so much human lives and the land. And since there were no data, no plan, no strategy, it was quite challenging initially when we came in. This is why we had to seek some intervention from the United Nations for us to be able to know the numbers that are displaced, to be able to know the families that are affected, and then to know the number of the destructions and all that we have incurred. So having been able to assemble all the data, all the information now, we took a further step. We have now come up with a Benue State durable solution on the IDPs. And it is purported to fulfill three major roles. It talks about a number of factors. But one being that these people are displaced, they are brothers and sisters, what do? We still have to accept them, assimilate them, we share same culture and everything. So that is one. And then the second one again is the relocation. That is place they cannot just be hanging out there in vacuum. So we had to look for a short-term scheme for them, which is the IDP camps. So now the state hosts up to 14 camps, 14 IDP camps all over the state. And one of the third pivotal aim of the durable solution on IDPs is to get them back to their ancestral lands. So, and just assuming you have a wound, and it's an old wound, and it's been infected, and a number of things are in there. And then, even if you are given injection, one injection cannot just suffice. So it has to be a series of injections, and this is what we have been doing. And the federal government has been on this traverse with us as well, putting in their own efforts. So let me quickly call on the federal government even to go an extra mile. If the ECOWAS transhumans protocol is reversed, at least for Nigeria, would be in the best position. Meaning, if the federal government gets back there to tell ECOWAS, well, this was made on a friendly basis with no evil intent and all that, but the opposite is the result. So let us now retreat. Let us see what we can do to fix, the internal insecurities we have before any other thing. I think that would be a very huge milestone for the federal government, and then also we, the subnationals, who are facing all the insecurities. Again, let it be on the record that it's not only Benue that has this, a number of places. But again, what we have noticed, a lot of the attacks are in the northeast, quite all right, and then the north central, for some reason, is spreading to other ends of the subnationals as well. The entire north central has so much. I think it is even becoming even more convoluted in the sense that, take Benue for instance, we have a lot of natural resources. We have the land, we have the water, we have the gold, we have the lithium, you name them, we have the uranium, we have everything. So instead of the blessings we have becoming a curse, I think as teaching time serves 9. So if the federal government moves and some steps forward to do this, the national internal security, believe me, would also be fixed. Ours, there's no question about that, will be fixed.
Just before Abdul comes in, Mr. Governor, what you have just said is suggestive that the bulk of the pastoralists are from neighboring countries and may not be directly indigenous.
No. There's no question about that. This is a fact. This is a fact. And see, we share borders here. Most part of one of our local governments in Kwani shares border with Cameroon. Very porous borders. Then internally we also share borders with Taraba, Nasarawa. Nasarawa is quite vast as well. Kogi, Enugu, Ebonyi, Cross River. So, but where we have a number of incessant, persistent, and continuous attacks is from this axis. So how they find their way all through to get into us, it's also indicative of the porousness of our borders. But we're Nigerians. We know our faces. We share same features. We understand all this. So when we see those who are mercenaries, those who are fighters, those who look very different from the associated headers we know, we understand that.
But discover you can make is 25, meaning you pay on the 25 of every month. Something that looks impossible before you came. What's the magic, and do you think this is sustainable to the end of your tenure?
Thanks much for this question. If my cronies tell you that my administration is being fought left, right, center, that is one of the reasons. Mr. 25. And by the way, it's not just 25. We have shifted the decimal between 22nd and 23rd because I want my folks in here to plan ahead and to plan well. I hate it. My father was also a civil servant and then a teacher. So they had a lot of wiggle rooms in their planning. Unlike before May 29th, 23, salaries were not paid, pensioners were never paid, entitlements were never given, and a lot of other excuses that were given, that federal government was no longer doing her own part of sending in some support, financial support. But when I came in, that wasn't what I discovered. By the way, I had inherited 359 billion naira at my advent into governance. So when we took a deeper look into the books, we now realized that the federal government gave their subventions, their support and everything. But just along the line between Abuja and Makedi, a number of things happened that the money could not reach the poor teachers, to the poor civil servants, and then to the pensioners and all that. But I think the dynamic is very easy. We have come in with a new thinking for the state. And I believe that a new Benue, it's possible to be created. And this is where we are. It only deals with proper planning, proper strategy, proper monitoring, proper execution and monitoring. And this is what we've been trying to do. We ensure that our civil servants get their money early enough. If in between those dates there is a public holiday or they fall on the weekend, whether it's a Sunday, they're simply sure of getting their money on that Sunday. So this has come to be, and believe me, it has come to stay. We have come to set a standard. We have come to set a standard. And the Benue people have now seen the differences. If there was no money, how come all of a sudden Father Alia came in with money? Initially when we began the payment and then the conduction and execution of projects, they said Rome, the Vatican City, was sponsoring me so that the state will come out from shame and all that. No, but that is not the fact. It was due, and it is due to the support from the federal government, the normal thing that is being done to every other governor. I believe that in the church, since we don't have money, we pinch the penny. So this is the newness again that I've brought into the system, pinching the penny, which again has created so many enemies, on my head, because they're only used to taking the fish and they don't want to learn catching the fish themselves. And who are those group of people? Some sizable number of the elites. To the rest of the folks in the state, is something new, is something very welcoming, is something they had prayed for, and is something they are experiencing. So believe me, as I'm sitting here now, we would be able, if a need arises, this is April, I'll be able to pay the salaries even in June, because we have prepped ourselves up on this. Planning, good thinking, the strategy, and then the right people, the right apparatuses to execute. And that is all we do. Then the monitoring. So it's come to stay.
His Excellency, since your assumption of office, you have embarked on numerous projects. And one that is really that you are really keen about is ensuring that the citizens have access to potable water supply, which you have last 2 weeks paid counterpart funding to revive the Utobi water works and the Kasinala water works. But the issue here now, the state needs to be reticulated. A lot of pipelines have been vandalized, especially in the rural areas. I paid a visit to Otukpo last week, and so many of the residents were complaining that the pipelines that were running supplying water have been vandalized. Within Makudi town here, a lot of broken pipes. If this water works begin to function properly, how would the people enjoy this water supply? More so that in previous administrations, they have complained that reticulation of the town is capital intensive. How do you intend to go about it?
Before now, payment of salary was capital intensive. So everything in the state was so named. Again, talks about the strategy, the planning, the focus, and then the willpower to ensure that it is done. Is it my administration that brought in the contractors on the Utobi, Utupo, Kasinala waterworks? The answer is no. In fact, the previous administration owed them so much, millions and millions of money. But we came in, we had to settle that. In strategizing, people, if you want to introduce someone into something new, as we are doing, you first of all have to do the education. Then you get into the field to let them understand what the issues are before you start bringing the newness of it. Water should be fetching a lot of economy, a lot of money, even for the state. But unfortunately, we haven't gotten there. Here's what we have done. I don't know when you came to town, but I so wish you had held some conversations even with the commissioners and a number of other people. The commissioner for Waterworks and Environment will even tell you that as I am speaking here, there are contractors who are already going about the urban areas to do a feasibility study to see how damaged are those. And unfortunately, the water reticulation, it's even worse bad in Makurdi here. So it's like Chinua Achebe saying water everywhere, but not even a drop to drink. We have the river right behind us here, and then people are not getting water. So that became quite unacceptable to us. The water, they call it the Great Waterworks of Otobi, Otukpo, Kasinala, then Yande, Boko, Buruku, Yande, Boko, are quite capital intensive. But it is a must that we will do. But first of all, we still have to supply water to people, no matter which frame it will come. Because like Otupo doesn't have water at all. So if we wait on the side to say, let us bring in the contractors, first of all, to do the reticulation before we give them water, just imagine what my name would become. So we first of all have to do the parchment. So, but putting the bandage on this water wound, it's not the answer. So we are still exploring. As I speak here, there are people in the field, right even in Makurdi here, doing the study work. So we first of all need to get this frame. One unfortunate thing we have experienced in the state is the lack of data. It's nada, zero, nothing at all. So when you are talking about reticulation, no one understands it. No one understands the water pathways that Aperiku did. And Aperiku did enormous works. Had opened up companies for us. Every large establishment you find in the state was his own initiative, and then Father Adasu. But all these are like moribund. Let me not get deep into your space. You may have a question on that as well, so let me just keep that. But we are already on these waterworks. There is emergency for now to have that water fixed for the Otuko people. So, and the only way to do that was to do the short term first, and then the long term, it's already on the way.
Your Excellency, let's go into politics, because now as you are into politics full time, and I'm sure you are experiencing a lot of politics against you. For example, second time is already on the way, and people are talking about that. And you are having problem within your party in the state with the former chairman of the party, and secondly, with the judiciary. It is said that you are having problem with the judiciary because their workers are on strike. Sir, with 2027 already in the corner, how do you solve this problem of, one, your relationship with your party and your relationship with the judiciary?
Thank you so very much. Let me begin with the judiciary. We don't have any anxieties with the judiciary, for the record. We don't at all. There was a requisition for the removal of the 7 CJ, or the law permits that I sign. I haven't signed anything. But then there is a protocol to all this. It has to go through the NJC and all that. So it was an honor on me to transfer whatever anxieties that the CJ had created within the system in the state to the NJC, and we have done that. So the NJC is the master handling everything. That is their own area. So for the record, we don't have any anxieties at all with the judiciary. I think part of the angst on the CJ was for him to call for the judiciary workers to go on strike. Recently we just updated our salary scheme. Instead of 70 minimum, we went to 75. And the workers are quite excited about that and happy. What the judiciary, the first time I came into administration, I granted them independence. I granted autonomy also to the local governments. So it's already in practice before the official local government autonomy now came. We were already on the practice. The judiciary was already on her own, doing their own stuff, doing their own macro and micro management of whatever resources. And the divide was just made in a way that I know what it is. The head man gets a lot of change in there. So instead of him fixing what he started as an anxiety, he now shifted to us. So if you ask members of the judiciary, they will explain that to you. I even picked this up from them. But this information I've now let out is the first time coming from me, but that is a fact because the records are there. So it is not even an anxiety. He was now calling on some documentation for increment. If any salaries were increased in the state, the establishment should also have theirs very separate, and all that. They asked the labor group in the state, the teachers union, the transport workers and everything. So we don't have anxieties with them. We don't have anxieties with civil servants. We don't have any with the Teachers Association at our universities. We don't. And our tertiary schools. We don't. So we don't have any in the local government. And rather, since I came in, nobody is being owed. No lecturer, no professor is being owed at BSU, at the Benue State University. We spend over 1 billion naira to clear everything, their backlogs that were left in there. So, and this is why you cannot hear anything strike, from their lips. So we are at par and they're doing their own bit for the growth of this state. So this is a fact. Now, politically, I want to establish that when newness comes, there are certain people who are feeding on unapportioned largesse. And when you now try to say it should not be a handful of people, the largesse, so-called, should go to the common masses. In fact, you expect a fight back. It's like you're fighting corruption. It fights back and bites hard. So this is the experience in here. There are some people within the political ranks of ours in the state here who feel that there should be no projects. Salaries should not be paid. Pension should never be paid. Hospitals should never be fixed. Schools should be left unfixed. But then once we get the FAC accounts, go submit, and then you tell them, sir, here it is. Then they take what they want and then give the rest to you, say, go manage with the state what you can. There are too many things at stake. Immoral study, there is an evil, and then there is, call it a small one. These are options, they can still be evils, but it is an option that serves the majority of the people. So you now settle for the lesser evil. All of us here are receivers. All of you are receivers. Us, everybody in this hall is a receiver. We don't own our lives. We don't. Our parents gave birth to us. They gave us names. They had a plan for all of us. And then along the line, we grew up, and then we saw the differences of what they were doing. And what must behove on us is to try to do better than they did, to live more improved than they lived. So, and then, if you understand the geography of the state, our people are farmers. They love their farming. As long as they have food, the request to the state government is very minimal. Give them good roads that lead to the local markets and to their own farms. Bring markets for them, for their produce. Fix their schools for their own children. Give them the necessities that are required there. And this is why we have embarked on this huge project of water supply, doing boreholes in most places of the town. But the majority of it being what we even spoke about here, the greater water works in the state. But when you come into governance, which is a social contract between you, God, and the people, and you fail God, and then you fail the people, so what are you left with? So if you have those two options, I think the lesser evil is the best option for you to take. Which means if people had voted us in, they trusted us, they believed us, and if we say we give them water and give them light and provide roads, they believe me. I'd been out there all my life. Apart from the period I went to school, spent 15 years out there, and then got back again, and I'm still working. Again, I've been 35 years as a priest. I know what their problems are. So I still feel that we have a robust affiliation. There are a few very handful people who feel aggrieved because the fact it's no longer given them, because salaries are being paid, because human capacity is being developed, because there's light on the streets of the township. Already, as I'm speaking here, we have even awarded roads amounting to 337 kilometers within the state. 337 kilometers. So if you had moved out in the suburbs, you see a lot of work going on, beginning within the town. So we have even turned the capital city here a work site. So am I the first governor just to come in and now begin the road work, and now begin to put street lights? No, I'm not. So there are a series of works to be done. So, and if we now sign this contract, with the people, and we do not do it, there's something called conscience. At the end of it all, remember, this is a tripartite contract that is signed. God, the people, and myself. Yeah, so if I'm in there and I'm feeding the frenzy of a very handful of people, it doesn't make common sense. So I don't want people to lose their religion. I don't want people to stop going to church. I don't want people to stop, to still continue tagging politicians or politics a bad game. This is why I came into politics. Ordinarily, I'm a priest. I would have said, oh no, I'm comfortable with my poor people out there in my local station. But the outcry, was too much. And then there was a direction that came out and set my people free. So now that I've come out, if I'm not fulfilling that, why am I in? So this is why we have embarked on so much, a number of projects. And this is why we're clearing, we're taking care of the salaries of the patient, of all the entitlements. If you retire now and at the end of the month, you get everything you have to pack home with. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. So we have to improve people's lives. At the end of the day, I will not be stuck with a very handful of people. I will be stuck with the people, the masses, and the guy upstairs, God.
Sir, as a follow-up to that, we know that 2027 is around the corner. we want you to talk about your ambition for a second term and how your relationship with these political godfathers, so to say, will affect your chances. And there's also the story that you are contemplating moving to SDP with some other politicians. How true is this?
It is fake. It is untrue. It is fashioned by those who do not know their left or their right. It is calibrated by those who do not want progress. It is executed by the talk, by those who feel the state should go down the dungeon. But unfortunately, that is not the wish of the people. I am the governor of Benue State. We struggled. We convinced people. Remember, we ran on a Muslim presidential ticket. So there were so many dynamics that came to play. I didn't just come into politics. I came into partisan politics with a huge movement. So if you hear yes, father was and still, it's a very laudable, formidable, strong movement. And this is what put me out there, in this rulership. So as a governor of the state and as the leader of APC in Benue State, how stupid am I for anyone even to tell you that I'm leaving APC to go to elsewhere? Am I destined for what they are thinking? The answer is no. So I ain't going anywhere, for the records. I'm in the leadership to give a direction, to support people to be on their own, to establish their economy, to let newness of life come into the state, to let people understand the pivotal importance of agriculture, which is what you are doing, to create roads for them. Other administrations did not do, the immediate did not do, the previous did the little they could. So this is where we are. So I think I should be smarter than that. For the 2027, it's not mine to say, again, it's for the people. But I wish, as you came to town, you went around to find out from them what they're thinking. But what I'm thinking is, by May, I will be just 2 years, and I have 6 years more to go as a governor of Benue State. Yeah, 6 more years. And how is that defined? By their fruits, you shall know them. So the people are telling me that, yes, they are not only seeing the fruits, they are plucking and feeding on the fruits. And that is what we intend to continue with.
Let's go a little bit on politics. Since we've done the mathematics, and easily it's clear what you're saying, what you have said without saying it. Okay. But then, how do you respond to reports? And now speaking strictly about politics, which of course they are influential politicians, Benue has produced a lot of them. How do you respond to the reported impasse between you and some very top politicians within your own party and specifically even with the SGF? How do you respond to such reports?
As a leader of the party in the state, I don't have any challenges with the SGF. He was the governor of the state. He was a senator representing Zone B. He served as a minister and is currently serving as an SGF. He's our great statesman in the state. And I uphold that. And I give him that respect still. So if there are any fights between him and myself, he's here to spell them out. Is there a Cold War? We were invited by the Totib, the paramount leader, His Royal Majesty, Professor Otis Uzua, James Ayate, CFR, to intervene on what he was hearing and the kind of accord war that was existing between the governor and the SGF. And if you go back towards the clip, the SGF himself told the whole world and the Tiv people and Benue people that if there were any things, a number of things he was doing that were not right, he was going to fix them. So I want to assume that those things are fixed, but I can't point any fingers on any reservation or any anxiety that is being created in there. But when the Tiv called us, this was it. With the former chairman of the party, Austin Nagada, his time had expired. We needed new blood in the system. So he was ushered out, and the new blood came in. And the new blood is bringing the transformation we had prayed for and had sought. And this was not just done, it wasn't done by me, but by the National Working Committee of the APC at our headquarters in Abuja. So, and it was a transparent system, and of late it's been given a letter of continuum in his own portfolio. So there is a lot of work we're doing. But granted, this is politics. There might be one skirmishes out there. People have unspoken expectations. I cannot rule those out. So when they let us know, we will try to bridge them up. Would there be some group of people? Yeah, he was a party chairman. Definitely he has his own cronies. We keep extending the olive branch to him and to them. Let them come back and let us all join forces. This is the only state we call Benue, and our home state. So let them come back, join forces with us, and the train is moving. We'll all just fuel it some more to move even some more.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Governor. But at this point, we'll take a short break. This is just a brief break we'll take. We'll return with other issues pertaining to the state of Benue in 5 minutes. Stay with us. Very first media chat with Father Alia, Reverend Father Alia, the Governor of Benue State, and I'm still here with my colleagues. Mr. Governor, thanks for giving us this opportunity once again. We talked a bit on politics, but we'd like to dwell a little bit more on that because it's through the vehicle of politics you are touching the lives of the poor. As you say, you've always been with the poor and you've always been working with them, and so now you have this vehicle with which to touch their lives. But Kayode would like to go straight into that part.
Your Excellency, let's avoid a bit of innuendo so that people know you to be very direct and very speaking straight to the issue. Now, there were some comments you've made in the course of this interview. And may I remind you that we've had people who have touched lives, people who are doing so well as governors, but when those politicians say that you cannot get the ticket, it becomes an issue. So when you're counting 6 years, we are asking that, have you learned a lesson from someone like the former governor of Lagos State, Ambode? Have you learned a lesson from some people who will say that politicians have a role to play? They are the one that will be your agents. They are the one that will do those things. Have you considered it? Some have even said that, he's a reverend. He's a reverend father. He only knows about the people. But there are people who will do this job. And the call you made is also the call they are making, that they want you to unify these politicians. So how deep are you considering this issue to get this ticket? Because it's no longer news that you want to go for second time.
Thank you so very much for the question. Who are the politicians? They are the people. So, and if you are delivering on your contractual terms with them, I think it goes as much to say that, yes, they're the end point on saying go ahead, have this ticket, or we'll buy you a ticket and all that. So my administration is people-oriented. And the politicians are part of the people-oriented. So granted that there might be 1-2 political gladiators, but then they're also part of the people. So if we are working in sync with the terms of our reference in producing what democracy promises, in doing what is quite appealing to them, in doing what brings governance and democracy closer to their footsteps, I think they will also continue to have an urge to have that kind of a personality in the strategies and the executor to continue with the programming. So that is what informs my conviction. Would there be other political parties, trying to get into the platform, into the square? Yeah, there may be. But as we speak, we have collapsed every other political establishment into our APC. Would there be other skirmishes of small parties somewhere? The answer might be yes. But majorly, when I say collapse, what do I mean? They are seeing what we are doing. Their prayers are answered for what they had sought to be done for the state. And they're excited about it. So, but are there political shenanigans that would want to get in between the equation? The answer is yes. Because their frenzy had no longer been dined, been fed. So they might try to chip in, some clogs in the wheel and all that. But as a unified body of the party, I think we shouldn't even be thinking of any displacing us. Definitely everybody will want to sit where I'm sitting, but the question is, do they have the capacity to do that? Are they people-oriented? With this amount of work we have done, what are they bringing new on the table? By the virtue of the contract we have with the people, what have we left out? But again, I'm not playing blind to the fact that we are dealing with human beings, we are dealing with a political family. So when you feel everybody should be on one common bandwagon, 1-2 people would say, well, you are going too faster than my own speed. So there has to be a way either to slow down and get them on the bandwagon, or find some way to carry them on your back so that the equation is met and everybody is at par. So we're quite conscious of this, and we'll continue to make efforts towards unification of every member of the APC in the state. And it is my frame of thinking that many more would come to join our political ranks because of what they see us do, because of the answers we're supplying to the questions they had nurtured many years ago. So that's where we are.
Let me take you back to local government autonomy, because you did mention, while responding to Mr. Shegun's question, that the first thing you did was to give local government autonomy. And this has been going back and front, implementation, governors asking for extension, then the federal government saying no allocation if states do not conduct local government election. Now you saying you are the first thing you did was local government autonomy. But we hear that governors are lobbying the federal government that this should not be implemented. Are you distancing yourself from that statement?
The devil is usually in the details. When you unveil local government autonomy, that is where a number of things meet at that bridge, trying to have themselves sought out. If you leave the local government per se with the payment of pensions, for instance in the state, where the contribution that the state government was expected to do for the local government staff was said to be done on paper, but there's no cash any place. And it's the same thing with the state. What do? Where will they begin from? How much are they receiving? Will they be able to do capital projects? The arrangements we have made with our local government here is on capital projects. The executive contributes 60% and the local government contributes 40%. It's something new, but we're already on it. And there is some sound cooperation on this. And this is why we have spread a lot of road. Again, let me correct myself, 391.9 kilometers of roads, as I speak, are moving on. Within this capital city here, I think over 16, the initial 16 are already done with, and then a number are ongoing as we're speaking. So that is the kind of arrangement we went into. And when you have a state like mine where you have insecurity infestation, what do? There must be some arrangement between the executive and the local government to see at what point we can meet on funds to take care of this. All the insecurities are happening out there in the local governments. Makurdi Township itself is a local government, but we don't have that anxiety. So it's more out there. So what support can we as a state get from the local governments in contribution to fighting insecurity? And if they do that, would they still be able to pay their salaries, take care of their pensions, take care of all the other entitlements? Believe me, the answer is no. And more so that so much money was owed even to the local government. So where would they start? So these are the anxieties that exist within this framework of the local government autonomy. Did I have any reservations on granting this autonomy? The answer is no. If the federal government now puts a right, paying the local government very directly, would I have any problems? The answer is no. I wouldn't have any anxieties personally, because I had already weighed a number of things. If I didn't grant autonomy to the legislature, to the judiciary, by my own calculation, I was left with nothing for the rest of the state. So the only transparent way was, let them go. So and then we share the equation. What comes in, they take their percentile, I take mine, and the judiciary takes hers. And this is why we've been having this smooth running. And this is why I've been able to say payment of salaries instead of 70%, let us put 5 more gears, 75%. Are we good on that? The answer is yes. And this is why we're even able to do multiple roads we are doing even in the suburbs. And it's not just the roads that we've embarked upon. So ordinarily, I wouldn't have any problems at all, because I've put all the works side by side and seen, and the only transparent way is where they go. Now, there would be a lot of significant challenges in there. Parties might suffer. Definitely they may suffer. I don't know why, but that is established by certain findings. Would there be a centrality of activities? There might be some challenges in there. Would there be a number of projects synonymous with the inflows? That might have her own reservations as well. So, what they're giving the autonomy, I did. At the same time, their funds were still flowing into the state's pool. So, we made certain agreements. You take care of the state's insecurity as well. And then we also have to take care of the state infrastructural development. And this is how you would do this. So they are accepted. We have the IDPs. The local governments, again, 17 local governments are housing them. And most of our IDPs are now hosted by the immediate communities. So, and then they're supported by the state government. So, and where do we get the funds from? From both the executive and then the local government. So we chip in. So when all the chippings in are done, what is the local government left with? So those would be the anxieties in there. So, but I think the best practice of it is, since you have granted them, we're monitoring, we're just day by day, we're moving for so far, so good, quite smoothly, I would say. But then with the infestation again of the insecurities, it's much concerning.
Just quickly on the matter of salaries, because you've had to make a number of times. Are we looking here at the national minimum wage? Has been implemented that?
That is the national. Yeah, national minimum wage. So the minimum everybody receives in Benue, 75,000 naira monthly.
His Excellency, on assumption of office, we met a lot of deficit infrastructure in the state. And we see that so many roads are being opened up, construction of roads, revitalization of hospitals and schools. There is one burning issue which boils down to the moribund industries. These are the industries where our local farmers take their farm produce to get value for their farm produce. But the industries are moribund, they are not functioning. How do you intend to revive these industries, most especially creating job opportunities for our teeming youths that are graduating from school and generating revenue for the state?
Very great question. For some reason, I don't know which state would be number one on litigations, but Benue can never be, would not be far from being number two, if we're not number one. There are a series of encumbrances on those moribund projects of ours, industries of ours. Unfortunately, they are deeper than the sea. And we have tried, we are still trying. We are still going to the courts to see how they can be released to us. We are bringing in investors to see how they can take over, like the Taraku mills. As the number one producer of soybeans, I mean, we simply needed the industry, for value addition of processing industrialization. But then unfortunately, it went down the dips. Now, the investors are still on this conversation. We're also pleading with our very people who took the companies to court. We have paid a lot of money to those staff that the federal government could not even pay. Billions of naira already, for the record. Billions and billions of naira we've paid to such staff, including that Tarakumis. Tarakumis was one of our biggest. And then we also had the Benue brewery. The previous administration sold the brewery. The Benue cement was also sold. Today is Dangote cement. We have the brick industry in Otukpo. We also have the asphalt company towards Boko Road. For a very long time, these were in fallow. The facilities in there had already collapsed. Since a number of administration could not make them a priority, they were never salvaged. We had a rice mill here right in North Bank. Again, it was sold. So literally, there was a... And numerous of our youth were now rendered jobless. With the Dangote cement, Benue State still owns her own 10% there. Unfortunately, the previous administrations could not follow up on this. The entitlements were supposed to have, then the executive positions the state was supposed to occupy, the job hiring that the state was supposed to feed in were never done. So we are just in very formal talks, back and forth with the Dangote establishment, and it is our hope that we're going to get through to the other tunnel. So these are the problems we have. However, instead of crushing our legs and then continually wiping our tears, we have started something moving at some scale. We now have established the brewery. For the records, it's not that my people are drunkards. Not exact, no, they're not. But the consumption of bottles, I don't mean any harm here. Let no one misquote me at all. No harm intended at all. The consumption of the bottles in the state during festive periods, it's over 1 billion naira, just within the time frame. When we had the Benue brewery, a lot of our youth were hired. So it created a good avenue, not just for consumption, but for employment. We no longer have this. So whether we think towards re-strategizing on building our internal economy on the factory, other people are still going to bring in their own consumables to us. So the only way is to chart a way forward where we establish ours, hire our youth, and then in as much as people are still consuming, our youth are doing the craft. So there is a minimalism on them walking the streets, just swinging their hands. They are earning a living in here. So a few of those who are thinking on.
Your Excellency, you have just said that
APC practically has no opposition in the state. But yet we hear it everywhere that there are some people who are willing or who wants to challenge you for the governorship in the state. And most of these people have their support among the people. For example, we mentioned someone a few minutes ago and he's propping up somebody. Sir, don't you think that this might be the beginning of crisis within the APC and it might affect your chances?
Is cropping up someone as what?
as governorship candidate?
In his own capacity as...
For example, SGF?
He's the party's leadership, and with the party that presents candidates. Individuals are not permitted to do that, except they want to leave our party and then spring up with their own party and then create more competition. They have their right to do that, but within the APC framing, we're not thinking that. We're not thinking that. But again, it's not for me to preempt or to say. It's the people that would say. And this is why I'm people-centered. So everything about democracy, about partisanship, must be centered on the people. Anything short of that, it's no longer democracy.
I'd like to go to education, the matter of schools. You see, when they talk about ghost workers, you talk about ghost schools. We want you to talk about that. And this concept of ghost schools, it's a new one to me.
And the impact of that.
Yeah, it was a new terminology for me as well, ghost schools. But it's one of the things that gave me my very first good score. So when we came in, remember, I've spent all my life here within the state. So I knew what was. I knew where the monster had placed her head. So I already made some strategy, whether to start cutting the monster by the tail or the head or the middle part of it. So there was no way of going around the question than to hit it straight at the head. The very first 90 days we got into governance, we saved, I think, was it just about 3 billion or so, 3 billion. First 90 days. I think just about that. I knew it was over 2 billion naira that we have saved, even from the establishment of education. The ghost workers, and then we stumbled on ghost schools. Ghost schools in Benue had more teachers and very high graded. The least grade of a teacher in a ghost school was level 13. And once...
These are teachers who have names, collecting salary,
Oh,
school.
yeah. They were in the paper collecting salaries. And when we now opened the books fully, we went into the field to locate these very huge schools with very topmost teachers and with a lot of population of students. And then we discovered that even in those areas and towns and villages where they were named, never existed. People never heard of those schools ever. So we now came back to our drawing table and then now went back very fully to doing what we did to bring back over 2 billion naira that was saved by the state government.
Were they arrested? I'm really interested in this. Were they arrested? Have they been prosecuted? I mean, this is
a good number
massive
of them
corruption.
were just fake names. You can't trace it to anywhere. You can't trace it. But then there were some people out there, people who had retired who are still collecting money. People who were dead were still collecting their own salaries. This was even spread all through the civil society, So it wasn't only with the teachers.
Wow.
So it was a lot of work to do, but we were able to do that. And then the next 90 days made us realize that we had only scratched the surface of it. So we now took to the ICT corner to see how we are going to create automation at those establishments. And again, that was where there was a lot of pullback, a lot of fight back by the very people who were serving, the very people who were protecting, and the same, it was sort of convoluted, but we had gone past that stage now within the first year. So, but are we done with corruption within the system? The answer is no, we haven't. There are many more things we are planning to do, yes. We are still strategizing to see in the entire service, the figures were not right. The wage bill was not accurate. So nobody knew what was going in. Again, there was a lot of padding of the casual workers who in some establishments were more than the permanent staffing and all that. And how much were they collecting? So a number of things came to play. So we now had to rejig the entire system. And I think we're doing good, but still a lot of work to be done on this. So this is how ghost schools came to Benue. And a number of local governments had established ghost schools. So,
I'm sorry, Mr. Siri. Let's look at, this is one thing I did when I came in. By the way, this is my first time in Benue State. I tried to go and do personal investigation. I came in through Benue Links, which I understand it's one of those new things that you have revived, So, and I tried to ask questions. I didn't tell them I'm a journalist, just to find out. And the comments are quite impressive. And I want to know more. What do you intend to do in the long run in terms of empowering the people, quite subsidize the payment that is being done? But when people hear the word subsidy again, they are looking at it, how sustainable it is. Is it impacting on other sectors? Common mathematics gave us what we did. The new trend of Alianomics was easily carried out. If people, yeah, I like that. My economics. So if people had suffered for so long, they were never paid, civil servants were never paid, people didn't have purchasing power, and traveling became quite challenging. By the way, have you cleared the backlogs to a quite high of the workers who were never paid before you came in? Yeah, still working on that. Okay. So we pay a number of arrears, every now and then, and we just fetch a punch, and then we give out there. So again, it has to do with the good planning. So, and then when you are fighting insecurity, some elements of the good plans are still methods. We're trying to work through them again. So this was what we kind of inherited. So, and the establishment had completely collapsed. Private individuals brought in their bosses and named Benue Links because it was a good sellable name. So we needed, first of all, to cushion people. There were already conversations on the removal of the fuel subsidy. So we had to be fast enough on our own thinking and then the strategy. If fuel subsidy is removed, by the way, people had no clue of the fuel subsidy until it was removed and then everybody was awakened, So we now had to do that. We got the federal government support. Some funds were given to the states to see what they were going to do, how they were going to plan it. Ours, first of all, had to go on farm inputs, fertilizers and all that. And then the second one was on transportation. Much went into transportation. We bought 100 buses to ensure that they reached all the 13 local governments, and then they went interstates.
By beginning with that, we were cushioning our own government. You know, at least we knew that by that sector, people were going to complain less. So people had easy access, you know, to their movements and all that. So thank God for the young man we had there as the general manager. He's very hard, good business man and an economist who understand the craft. So with the way he has charted and with the organizations he has planned and is following his own strategy, it is sustainable by us. What we intend to do is even to increase some buses, because the money that was given them wasn't just a gratis to the establishment. We say the federal government did this for the people, but now we give this money to you as your own facility to see what you can make out from here. So, and they have started saving. They have saved quite a chunk. So if you go to the Benue links now, it's no longer what it was, deserted, forgotten, all marshy and all that. So he upped his own game, and with the increase of the buses, many more people, he gained even more customers, and then they were even reaching out. So we also compared other private ownership and even other government ownership also to beat down their prices, because the demand for Benue links was even now quite tall than even the supply. So they continue to work on that. But someone who is very good at pinching the pennies as well. So this is why we believe that it's going to be sustainable. We have a number of young people who have been hired, you know, by that establishment, and we intend to continue with the strides it's making. We're going to improve that space. We're going to create a hub, a bus stop hub, you know, which will become quite central to the entire city here. So he already has some plans towards that. So once that is done, he's again going to even gain more. That will be one value addition, and then his economy is also going to increase. So why he will spend money on that infrastructure, you know, to centralize, you know, the transportation, the making it a bus hub stop. More economy would now be more deliberate, more targeted. And there are a number of plans he has. He's already started executing them. So instead of having just the buses, it's now gotten some trucks to be transporting goods from here, Lagos, Kano, and all that. Again, which is a separate toy economy, you know, for the system. So there are a number of things it's going to do, and we will continue to work for the people. Another phase we're coming to spring up with is bringing more buses to go around the city to cushion our civil servants, and then the market women, you know, moving from one point to the other. So we're already midway with that plan. So once it matures, he is going to do that as well.
Excellency, let's talk about the health sector. Somebody from Nasra was telling me in Abuja that he came to Benue State University Hospital for treatment. What did he do in Benue State University Teaching Hospital that is giving you a lot of praises? What did he do differently there?
I feel strongly that it's having the round peg in a round hole, having the right personality to champion your cause. And the person we're privileged to have, the CMD we're privileged to have, is someone who understands his own art. He's been in there for a very, very long time. He's a specialist in his own area. And we had a need to upgrade our own hospital. That is one huge establishment. We have already begun work on our local government clinics as well. But we needed a tertiary so that instead of supporting people to do medical tourism, which still remains quite tall. Like with my budgeting of last month, it was quite tall. Just trying to help individuals. So instead of helping them to go elsewhere for their own medications and all that, why can't we create this at home? So we now upgraded everything about the teaching hospital. And that is where we still intend to stay. The right personnel is brought to bear. The right specialists are in there. We even need some more. So we're working around to get better funding even for them. Again, this also deals with our studentship from the medical school. We have brought back their scholarship scheme. And we're even trying to see before now where it was exemplified, they were supported and they had a contract to stay for, I think, 2 or 3 years, but they could not stay because there wasn't any good inducements from the government. So, but we had to change the dynamic. So we're going to have a number of, quite a chunk. I'm happy even to hear that other doctor students coming to our own facility here, to do their internships and all that, their housemanships so-called and all that. So again, with this hospital, we pulled so much funds into it to make the system work. Is the only largest one we have. Of late, we also have the one established in Otuko in Zone C now. The one we have here, Makurdi, it's part of Zone B. So the one established there is also for the university. This began for the university and then was all open for everyone. We are going to open up, we've actually started already, the construction of a cancer center. I know that the First Lady has been very supportive of us at the state, and we are doing this in her own honor. She speaks so passionately about those who are undergoing the pains and the tortures of this. So, and then by our axis here, there are a number of things that are left unchecked. We are the hub of yams. The concentrates of yams, it's not all too favorable to the consumers. If it is not moderately consumed, end result is you develop, you can easily develop diabetes. So, and for some reason, again, we're quite bad at data. So we're trying to establish all those. Why is it that, this is nationwide now. They will now tell you a number of diseases that are springing up, particularly even with cancer. You can confirm this from the Federal Ministry of Health. So asking the proportion at different states. And what in the last 1 year, 8 months I'm observing is there are a series of cases of cancer by this axis of ours. So we have a need for it, ranging from the very young people and then to the adults. Talk of prostate, majorly. These are the categories we've been supporting to go elsewhere and fix all this. And then what we have now is extraordinarily improved. We're not only having just a cancer center which is being built as we speak, and we are also having a pharmaceutical side by side with this center. The facility is already completed. So the CMD is now working on the modalities to bring in the one equipment new equipment in the hospitals so that we stop medical tourism. But thank God we're having quite a chunk of medical tourism into the state. That's my end point. So we have a lot of people from Cross River, from Taraba, and even beyond. And a good number of people coming from Nasarawa, and some even from Abuja, depending on what their anxieties are. We are very affordable, quite affordable. And then we're quite attractive. So not just being affordable, we have the art. We have the art. And then once we put the pharmaceutical side by side, we're even going to go lower. Because if we want people to function their optimum, they must be very healthy. So, and that no other person is coming to fix all this for them. And more so that we're revamping local government clinics and hospitals. We want to make our pharmaceutical the hub, so that all these are the quacks. We no longer take advantage of our people, and so that's the newness we have breathed into our system, and our hospitals and the clinics are also coming back to life.
I agree with you that we have one unifying factor in the whole world, which is sports, especially football. In Benue State, we have let me put it, our darling football team, the Lobby Stars. Of late, Lobby Stars have been at the relegation at the league table, and the thing has been a concern to Benue people. They no longer play their local matches at the stadium, where they have the privilege of going there to cheer their team, their darling team up. What is the state government doing to ensure that Lobby Stars regain the lost glory that used to excite the people of the state, and bring them out of that relegation position?
Thank you so very much for that question. Before now, I was quite a good athlete myself, so I have a DNA passion for sports, and this is why we're rejigging it. Before we came in, all our football pitches were written off, so they were no longer functional. Our boys were managing them quite all right, but it required a new breathing, so we took it up. The team was epileptically supported until we came in, and then we gave them a full charge. Go be the best you could be. And then we changed the management, and for some reason, human beings are human beings. Some people have some certain attachment to certain individuals that they take a foot, they take two. So, that cannot be fully controlled. But here's what we have done. Works are ongoing on the major football pitches we have here in the state. The largest, the Aperico Stadium. And then the second one, the McCarthy Stadium. McCarthy, it's, I want to be politically correct here, I have 70% concluded. Not been there in the last 2-3 weeks now, but works keeps on, at the light speed. And it's the same thing with the Aperico Stadium, which is the largest. Thank God we've had the NFF and the Nigerian football bosses come in to see where we are with our pitches, because we're raising them to the international standard. So this is why we had to put so much funds into them. Unfortunately, for us, for some reason, my boys are no longer doing their optimal. They are not performing as they were doing. I don't want to blow my trumpet, but you just need to ask. There are lots of football fans around town. Just ask them, or you can ask the management as well, or the board. and they can tell you that they have never received funding the way they have received during our administration. So I don't understand the nemesis, that these around, them. But we lost quite a number, because of the management change, we lost quite a number of arrowhead players that went with those people. So we're still in a struggle mode to see what they can do. I think we're left only with six matches. If they pull through, perfect. If they don't pull through, they still have my 101% support, because it is in the Benue DNA on sports. And this is why if you go to the Perico Stadium, we are revamping all these facilities in there. The swimming pool, the internationally measured swimming pool that was built but just left hanging for many, many years. So we actually sent the Swimmers Association of Nigeria come vet it, and they've gone back. And I'm longing to hear from them what the assessment is and all that. Benue had been in the front burners of sports generally, not only in football. We have a number of football legends from the States. So we're going to rejig the entire system. So my boys should not bother so much. And I crave your indulgence, you are fans. Don't be dismayed. Every now and then things like this happen. They have the hiccup. It could be administrative, it could be, because one person moves out and then packs the best legs, and then you are left with what we are left with and all that. But we have all the opportunity and the privilege of making them taller, making them bigger, and making them the best, as Benue is known for.
Mr. Governor, we just have a few minutes left to wind down this program, but there's something I really want to take you on about. It's something you said much earlier. That Nigerians should stop seeing politics as a dirty game. All should go in and play it. However, there's an aspect I'd like to find out from you. Has it happened, or does it happen, that you're faced with decisions that may run counter to your beliefs? What, as a priest in politics, have you faced situations where, the general idea people have is that politicians have perfected the art of double speak, and there are times when they are economical with the truth? Have you faced those situations where you look yourself as a priest of 35 years standing, and certain things you have to do in politics?
It's only a legend that can come up with this kind of a very tricky question, but it's still very welcome. Politics being politics, for some reason, political actors have played badly or wrongly or offside to a point that politics was nicknamed a bad game. Politics require those who are responsible, transparent, accountable, and those who can deliver. Here has been my assessment. Before 1999, because of the back and forth rulership of the military and all that, nobody should even take this thing very personal. But I strongly feel that because of the instability, for good enough and excellent quality people to come into the ring of partisan politics, could not believe that the ushering in of the political practice was not even coming to stay. So a number of actors who came in by accident. And the bad side of it was they some spoke and practiced half-truths, and were quite economical with the truth of politics, or, put everybody, as in a banana republic, down the hole, sealed it up, and sat on it. So it now became quite challenging in terms of, one, leadership selection, and then the active playing and participating. I'm fully convinced, as we are making the mistakes, correcting them, creating the reformations and all that, our system is also going to be perfected. Have I been faced with certain decisions that I felt were immoral or were different? There are certain decisions you have to do, not necessarily because you want them done, but simply because it is for the good of the people. And then you carry them out. So, if we bring to the scope the true definition of politics, it has to be something for the majority of the people. The greater good of the people must at all times be sought. Just talk about the capital punishment. Would I go for capital punishment? The answer is no. Personally, no. And by the tenets of my religion. But if our law permits, would there be a wiggle room for me to go around and then say, well, the law says this, but then there is some certain window chance for me to say, let's spare that life, correct him, and then make him a better citizen? I'll go for the option. But because of the people, because the law says and the people want this done, I must always stay with the people for the good of the people and the majority of the people.
All right. It's been an interesting 2 hours. So just passed. And so we'd like to leave this conversation, and thank you so very much for letting us ask you this question. And we also like to note that it probably is that we are having a priest, Reverend.
That is correct.
Well,
that is correct.
So from my colleagues, Coyote.
Thank you so much. It's a wonderful time. We hope to have this some other time.
Okay. Abdul?
It's been wonderful being with you.
Grace?
It's been a nice time having this conversation with you, and we look forward for more.
Your Excellency, you should expect more power works from us next time.
And definitely, I'm looking forward to having you back here. One thing I know of me is the fact that I am a silent achiever. I encourage you to move down the streets, interface with the people, and then they will tell you where Benue is. But I look forward to having you back soon.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot.
And well, this is where we end this media chat. We thank you for watching, and you heard the governor. We will be back some other time. Thank you, and goodbye for now.